Hi, I'm Sarah from The Upcoming. What a pleasure to be able to speak to you today. How are you doing?
I'm doing well. I love your wallpaper.
Oh, thank you. I was just thinking your shirt also coordinates with the poster. So
I didn't mean to.
dental. So for people who haven't seen The Wedding Banquet yet, maybe you can give us a brief intro. What can people expect coming into this dramedy, if you like?
The Wedding Banquet is a reimagining of the Ang Lee film of the same name. It is a story about a chosen family, about two couples who are best friends living in Seattle who are wrestling with modern day queer topics, like whether or not they should get married and whether or not they should have kids. It's a personal story for me. Something that I've been working on for a number of years now, and I'm excited for people to get to see it.
What was it about that original film, the 1993 version, that really spoke to you, I guess? And why did now seem like a great time to, I don't know if you're calling it a remake, more of a reimagining? Why was the right time now to revisit this story?
I watched the original film when I was 8 years old. My mom rented it from a video rental store, not knowing that it was a queer film. As a nascent, gay boy, it really resonated with me in a way that I even at the time didn't quite understand. In retrospect, I realized that it was the first gay film that I had ever seen. The fact that it was a gay Asian film, the fact that, these characters had so much humanity, I think really put me on the right course, both as a filmmaker, and also as a human being. And so it just really it has always stuck with me. But for these reasons, I actually didn't want to make the movie because I didn't want to do a reimagining. Because it held such a special place in my heart. But I realized how much has changed for the queer community since 1993, and namely, in the US, like we can get married, and the question for me became, well, now that we can get married, like, do I want to actually? Like, should I? And then this question about kids, I remember having a conversation with my boyfriend about having children. And he told me, well, if it happens, it happens, which is a line in the movie. I was like, oh, no, it doesn't for queer people. Like, you can't whoopsie daisy a baby, And so I realized that for queer people, like, you have to be extremely intentional about having children, and that any hesitation becomes a giant obstacle. And so, those questions, those topics are things that, I think I'm currently exploring, examining, in my relationships. And so it felt like the right time, whether it's the right time for the culture, for society, or the right time for me. It just kind of felt like this is a film that I wanted to make.
I was just thinking about the tone of it as well, because there are so many witty lines and kind of laugh out loud moments. But, it's still very sincere at moments as well. And there's definitely space for conversations to happen, for silences to linger. The film's not in a rush, which perhaps you can maybe feel like if you're more kind of in the slapstick sort of rom-com genre. So was that something that was very intentional to get that kind of mix of the irreverent, funny tone, but then also dealing with some of these issues head on and in quite a kind of earnest way?
I think that's part of my instincts as a filmmaker. It's always to find that human balance. I think our lives are often really funny and then also, very dramatic and heartbreaking. And so I wanted to see that range of emotions and, moments in this film. I think the drama always makes the comedy funnier, and the comedy makes the drama sweeter, especially with this cast. It was so fun to, play that dynamic range, and hopefully show people a film that feels something like real life.
And did you have a funniest line? And so many that tickled me. Even when they're like, trying to get everything gay out of the apartment. Oh, oh no, you look gay.
I know. I
Um,
there's There's so
What
many
is your
fun
favorite?
things. I do really love that "de-queer the house" sequence and, that line that Kelly says, "Everything in this house is gay." That was an ad-libbed line, and I love it. I love so many of the things that Min says, our actor Han Gi-chan. I think he's just so naturally funny. Of course, the actress who plays grandmother Yoon Yo-jung, kind of impeccable comedic timing when she calls. I don't want to spoil it, but like there's just so many wonderful moments that yeah, I just had so much fun with this cast to create that mood on set.
And then I guess balancing that with these sort of really emotionally resonant scenes. And of course, a big thread in the film is about parenthood, of course, in sort of all of its iterations. So I guess that's something that people who aren't from the queer community are kind of getting a window or, a glance into what that experience might be. But there's also a lot of universality in that, when she's talking to her mother, or, your mother issues aren't the same thing, isn't the same thing as having an issue with motherhood, which is something that we can all sort of reflect on, like when we become parents, is we worry about the relationships we've had with our own parents, how it's affected us. We don't want to carry that over when we have children. So was that also something very wonderful to explore on screen?
I think the topic of parenthood is really thorny, and there's so many different ways to explore that question. And, I love that, yeah, Bowen Yang says that line, right? Like mother issues isn't the same thing as motherhood issues. I love Kelly's answer. It's like, yeah, kind of is. And it is really wrapped up in each other, and I think everybody has a different way of kind of looking at it, but it's an extremely universal topic, and I think has changed as society and culture has changed. Like it used to be that this was an expectation, right? That people, this is what you do, you get married and you have kids. But now that those aren't expectations, right? That we have the choice. Now it becomes the burden of that choice, and whether or not we want to make it and how we should do it. And so I'm excited, all audiences to watch this film and have that opportunity to reflect on how they feel about it, and to have that conversation with friends and family. Like that for me, I think is the more intentional we are about kind of our relationships and our families, the healthier.
You've already mentioned the cast a bit, but maybe you can just say a few more words about how you put this incredible ensemble kind of together, both the younger cast and the older cast. Like you say, like the grandmother playing a really pivotal role in this as well. It's not something that's just kind of the young ones kind of mixing it up and bouncing off each other. So how did you put this wonderful cast together? And it must have been so much fun on set.
What an ensemble. I love our cast. Our casting director, Jenny Ju, she is such a wonderful collaborator. And, we wanted to find a group of actors that would be really generous with each other and feel like a family. And, especially in this day and age, it's so hard to kind of find the time, to do chemistry reads, and so some of this was really just based on, instincts and conversations. But what a wonderful group of people: Bowen Yang, Lily Gladstone, Kelly Marie Tran, Han Gi-chan. Like I just love how they really feel like this chosen family, and the intimacy between them, the friendship. Like it just shows how vulnerable they could be with each other. There's a really wonderful thread through the film of Kelly saying to Lily, I love you, I love you, I love you. And that was something that they had created together, and I love how much of themselves they put into the film, Lily Gladstone, just the soft side that you probably haven't seen too much in her other films. Like, she's such a softie in real life, and I think that getting to see that in this character Lee is so incredible. She named her character. It wasn't Lee before in the screenplay, and it was something that took more ownership of in a way that I really love as a director. And then, of course, our actors, Joan Chen and Yoon Yo-jung, like they're just legends, icons. I love them. And, they were so maternal on set and really took care of us and, encouraged us in a way that, I hope that, we made them proud, making this movie together. I can't wait for people to watch the film and feel like they're a part of this, wonderful family.
What do you hope people will go out the cinema thinking about, feeling? I mean, I guess definitely having laughed, perhaps even cried, had that kind of a bit of a roller coaster of emotion. And I guess it is, like we said, kind of a window in this to the specificities of the gay Asian community in America, but there's also so much that is universal in the movie. So what do you hope people take away?
I hope people take away a sense of love and connection, that they understand how difficult relationships are, and that even if you love each other, that there's going to be drama. And actually, in some ways, there's more drama if you really love each other. And so I hope people reflect on their relationships with, their partners, their parents, their children. This film gives them the opportunity to just really cherish, the family that they have. And then hopefully, kind of feel a sense of strength and renewed kind of energy to, cultivate those relationships and make them stronger, make them, understand each other more fully. That would be a wonderful outcome, for me that an audience walks away with.
And of course, opening the BFI Flair Festival, not too shabby. How does that feel for you? What are you most excited about bringing this to a London audience?
I have such a soft spot for London. I've been here many times before. I find it such a romantic city, and so to bring this movie here just feels really appropriate. And BFI Flair is such a historic festival that, I am so honored to be a part of and to kick off this year, with a celebration, that it just feels really meaningful to me.
And what do you think, the significance is of this festival? I know it's like 39th year, which is hard to sort of believe, but it does feel like it still plays a really important role. Because so I guess we can say, yes, as you compared this film to the 1993 version, or what society looked like when that film was first released to now, we can see lots of improvements. But of course, there are still many issues to be discussed. There is still issues around representation and who gets to tell stories. So do you feel like a festival like this is still very crucial in providing a platform and kind of nurturing discussions and creating those connections in a safe space?
For sure. I think that BFI Flair, this community, the queer community here, in London, opportunity to find each other and to build each other up and to celebrate each other, because the greater world is a scary space, like it can still be really, intimidating, can be very toxic. And so to find strength in a community, I think is really important. I think that the world, it's a bit of a pendulum swing. And I think that there's a growing conservatism, a backlash to the progress that's been made over the past decades. And it's frightening. And I think that to have a festival like this that really celebrates our stories, that I think humanize us, I think is incredibly important and relevant for today.
100%. And very quickly, do you know what you're going to be working on next? Have you got another idea percolating, or you're letting the dust settle on this one? Where are you at?
I don't know what I'm doing next, and it makes me a little nervous. I I definitely, want to work with these lovely people again in some capacity, and I'm constantly looking for, stories and dreaming things up. But I think I want to get this film out there in the best possible way, and I'll figure out the next thing in due time.
Wedding Banquet too, who knows?
I know, I know. I don't know what story that would be, but we'll see.
You can make it work. Well, thank you so much for your time, for sharing all that with me. Huge congratulations on this absolutely wonderful film, and really enjoy your premiere tonight. I think it's going to be fabulous. Thanks so much.